Hi there, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today we're going to be playing with delicious stretching movements, dynamically opening up the body, decompressing after what was maybe a stressful first week back, trying to establish a new routine for 2022. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify where you need to, and feel comfortable to either pause the stream or to ease your way into child pose should you need to take 5 at any time. You ready? Let's hit the mat. We're going to set up for today's class standing in the middle of the mat. Feet are stacking in a comfortable summer seated, so maybe just a little bit wider than hip width distance apart, all 10 toes looking towards the front of the mat. Tuck your tailbone under, pull your belly button in, stand up nice and tall, interlace the hands, invert them and just drop them down towards the floor, taking a little stretch as you think of reaching through the palms of your hands. On an inhale, float your hands up to about shoulder height as you come up onto the toes, and then float softly back down. Start playing with that movement, sinking to your breath, inhaling as you come up, and maybe gently exhaling as you float your feet back down to the mat. Starting to look for length in the body, starting to stretch out your spine as long as you can. You're going to ground your feet and end with the arms high at about shoulder height. Start tracing an anti-clockwise circle through the heels of your hands, almost as if you were tracing the circumference of a small ball. Come to stillness and take a soft rotational twist to the left. Come back to center, rinse and repeat, maybe 4 more times, just gently stretching off center to one side while reaching long and lengthened through the heels of your hands. Keep the knees soft. Come back to center, drop the arms at your side, and then think of shrugging and dropping your shoulders at the same time. Fist and give me a little starburst through your fingertips. Maybe giving me a nice little shooting breath as you drop the shoulders away from your ears. Then interlace the hands, push them away towards the floor, take a little stretch through the arms. Then start playing with that heel float, raising the arms up in line with the shoulders while reaching long through the palms. Start looking for length in the body. End with your feet grounded and the hands up at about shoulder height. Start tracing a clockwise circle through the palms of your hands. Come to stillness and give me an off-center twist to the other side, reaching long through the palms. About 5 little off-center twists. Then drop the arms at your side, shrug and release the shoulders, at the same time fisting and then opening up the hands into a little starburst. Reaching long through the points of your fingers as you open up the hands. Come to stillness and give me a soft forward fold, maybe coming into a tabletop line. Stop in your tabletop line and just softly begin bending and extending through the legs while keeping the arms dangling softly down to the floor. As the back chain of the legs start releasing, start reaching your fingertips closer and closer to the floor. Maybe this means that you can eventually touch your fingertips to the mat. Don't stress if your fingertips don't get there. Just play with what your body's giving you. Then bend the knees as much as you need to step back into the tabletop line. Coming into 4-point kneeling with your hands stacking underneath your shoulders and your knees stacking underneath your hip points. Look for length through the spine, almost pushing off the mat and keeping your gaze softly down between the 2 thumbs. Tuck your toes under, find your way into a little down dog. Maybe bending and extending through both knees simultaneously. Every time you extend, maybe trying to drop the heels a little bit closer to the floor. Then hold your down dog frame and thread opposite hand to ankle, maybe tapping or reaching around and holding, threading through and almost peeping underneath the armpit as you hold that oblique down dog. Ease your way back into a tabletop frame. Find your way back to your down dog, bending and extending dynamically through the knees. Then hold your down dog frame, reaching through opposite hand to ankle to maybe tap or hold. Think of peeping underneath your armpit, gently looking up towards the ceiling while keeping your belly button softly pulled in to center. Ease your way back to 4-point kneeling. Keep your feet soft and relaxed in parallel as you relax the bridges of your feet to the mat and push back into a modified child. Arms long and lengthened, maybe tapping your forehead to the mat and reaching your bum bones as far back as you can, as if you were trying to gently kiss your heels. Hello. Then come through 4-point kneeling. Bump the hips softly forward, holding a modified up dog. Either stay here, pushing off your arms, or try to float your knees and your shins off the floor so that you're resting on the palms and the tops of your feet. Then drape the knees and the shins back on the floor, push back into child, and take a recovery breath or two. Draping the arms softly down on the mat to release the elbows, the forearms, the palms, the hands, to softly drape on the mat. Then start extending your arms out, maybe creeping your fingertips forward and walking right onto the tips of your fingers, almost clawing into the mat. Take a beautiful, delicious stretch into the arms and the shoulders. Come through 4-point kneeling. Bump the hips through the line. Find your kneeling up dog. Pause here, pushing off nice and strong through the arms. Get a stretch into the lower belly. Then float your knees and your shins off the floor and hold your modified up dog. Maybe tuck the toes under this time and start gently swaying the weight back and forth. As you push the weight back, really try to tap those heels to the wall behind you. Relax your knees to the floor, relax your shins and your feet. Come back into child pose one more time. At first, just relax your elbow points, your forearms, your wrists, your hands. No tension in the shoulders or the arms. Just take a couple of recovery breaths. Then walk your fingertips forward to the front of the mat, almost clawing through the fingers, and take a nice little extended stretch here. Find your way to 4-point kneeling and start bumping your hips through the line, finding your kneeling up dog frame. Tuck your toes under. Come into that hovering up dog position, holding steady or swaying if you need to. Hold. Look for length through the spine. Don't collapse your chest towards the floor. Drop down to child. This time, softly wrap the arms around the body. If you feel up to it, you can gently interlace the hands behind you, making a little fist. Draw the two shoulder blades together and think of trying to use your knuckles to reach back and tap the wall behind you while resting your forehead softly on the floor. Take a few deep breaths here. Unbind the hands Drape them softly to the mat, giving yourself at least a full 3 recovery breaths. Then softly begin extending the arms on the mat in front of you and find your way into a 4-point kneeling frame. We're going to come back to a down dog. So tuck your toes under, float your bum up to the ceiling. And once you've found the down dog frame, I'd like you to bend your right knee and start tracing a big clockwise circle with that knee. Externally rotating through the hip joint, giving me a few rotations while trying to anchor as best you can through the left leg. Then use that swinging motion to set up a pigeon line, floating the leg down to the mat, lining up the knee and the ankle in an angle that works for you. Relax the back, knee, shin and foot. Slide, walk or creep the back leg away. And then wiggle around till you feel like the weight distribution is equal through the pelvis on both sides and through the shoulders on both sides. Ease your way down onto the mat, maybe coming onto the forearms or coming into full extension, dropping your forehead to the mat and then reaching through your fingertips as long as you can. Walk them out, almost coming onto the tips of your fingers and then holding your little pigeon stretch here. Try to get a sense of evenness through the shoulders and the hips, and then relax or drape your arms down to the mat for at least 3 or 4 more breath cycles. Walk your way back onto the forearms and then onto the palms. Tuck your back toe under and float your way back into your down dog frame. Maybe moving through the knees and the hips in Svananda, blissful dog. Just get that blood supply back. And then settle into your down dog frame and hold the stretch, working the front and the back chain of your body. Pause here for a beat or 2. Then thinking of bending the right knee again, and this time trace your circular pattern anti-clockwise. Shooting for maybe 10 big circles. You're going to use this hip opening pose to come back into your pigeon. So you're going to draw that leg forward, either lining up the knee and the ankle or tucking in closer to the perineum. Relax the lead leg and the back leg. Slide, walk, or creep that back leg away and come into a high pigeon hold, pushing off your fingertips, squaring up through the shoulders and the hips, and just pausing and holding the stretch here. If you like to, you can come into a gentle bind, maybe bending the back leg, reaching opposite hand to foot and just taking a little oblique stretch here. If reaching for the foot is not an option for you, maybe keep both hands on the floor and just gently look over your right shoulder towards the back edge of the mat. Play where you're comfortable. You're going to think of gently easing your way from here back into a plank line. Hold a nice solid plank, trying to reach through the heels of your feet towards the back of the mat. Then think of floating that right leg up and giving me knee to nose, stepping up to the inside of your right hand. If your leg gets stuck on the mat, maybe just do a manual adjustment and step the foot forward. Drop your back foot to about a 45-degree angle and just come up gently into a warrior 1 pose, bending your lead leg, making sure you've got knee over ankle. Float the arms overhead. Arms almost framing your ears on either side. Make sure you've angled that back foot in slightly so that both hips are looking to the front of the mat. And then try to sink down as low as you can towards the mat as you find warrior 1, Virabhadrasana 1. Then think of modifying your back leg and your arm position, opening up the back leg to 90 and floating the arms into T as you find warrior two. Palms are looking down into the mat. Watch that you're not dropping that back hand. So try to give me a nice parallel arm line, and then keep your gaze steady over the front forearm. Try not to lean all your weight forward. Have that weight coming down evenly through the hips towards the floor. Let's reverse the warrior. Drop your back hand to the back leg. Maybe just wrapping around for the inner thigh. Invert the front hand. And then think of softly wrapping that arm around you, almost giving yourself a mini hug, softening through the elbow, and maybe looking up towards that palm. That's your focal point, your drishti. Reversing your warrior, taking a few breaths here, almost making a soft crescent-like shape with your back. Then ease your way back into that warrior two frame. Windmill your arms down. We're going to use a little vinyasa to come down. Find a plank. Chaturanga down and using knees or no knees. Bend at the elbow, come to hovering just off the floor. Drag the weight forward over your wrists, setting up an up dog. And then ease your way into a down dog frame. Hold the down dog stretch. Legs should be a lot warmer now. So try to anchor as best you can through the whole foot. Keep your bum piped up nice and high. Think of almost feeding your nose through as if you wanted to tap your nose to your knees. Then maybe come onto the tips of your fingers and softly walk your feet forward. Coming into a gentle forward fold with your hands maybe connected to the floor, or maybe you'd prefer to connect them to your shin bones or perhaps the top of your thighs. Find a forward fold hold. If your hands can easily reach the floor, maybe think of inverting your hands and creeping them through, trying to reach past your ankle, and then just hold the stretch. Think of the weight placement in your feet. Try to keep the weight placement equal between the front and the back quadrant of your foot so that you're really getting maximum stretch up the back of your legs. Give me a few gentle breaths here. If you'd walked your hands through, bring your fingertips back towards the top of the mat and ease your way back to 4-point kneeling. Tuck your toes under. Find your down dog frame. Settle into your stretch. Then soften or bend the left knee and start tracing a clockwise circle with that bent knee. Shooting for between 5 and 10 revolutions. Try to anchor through your whole right foot if you can. Use this hip opening movement to come into a pigeon line. Settle the front leg, settle the back leg. Think of evening out through the shoulders and the hips so you're not dropping lower on one side. And then walk your way out into extension, maybe stopping on the forearms or coming into full extension and walking out your hands as far as you can, coming onto the very tips of your fingers. Take a little stretch here, pushing off your fingertips. And then softly drape your arms on the mat. And just think of finding a sense of stillness and breathing into the stretch. Ekapada Rayaka Potasana, one-legged pigeon. Creep your way back onto the forearms. Find your way back onto the palms. Ease your way back into your down dog frame. Tuck your back toe under, bring the knee up off the mat. Find your down dog. Maybe just releasing in blissful dog by giving me a soft rotational movement through your knees and your hips, and then settle into your dog. When you're ready, soften the left knee and start tracing an anti-clockwise circle this time. When you're ready, think of setting up your pigeon line from here. Give me a high pigeon line this time. Look for that sense of evenness through the shoulders and the hips, either keeping your hands connected to the mat. And if you need to, you could always take a block and just tuck it underneath your bum to support your frame if you need it. If you'd like to play with that bind, you can reach opposite hand to back foot and take a little stretch here. If that's not happening for you, maybe keep both hands on the mat and just peek over that back shoulder for the back edge of the mat. Hold, play where you're comfortable. From here, you're going to ease your way into a one-legged plank. Ground your hands, make sure that they're stacking underneath your shoulders. Tuck the back toe under, bring the knee up off the floor. Find your plank line first, and then the leg that was in front in the pigeon line, just float it behind you in a one-legged plank. Set up a warrior one from here, so swing that back leg forward, step to the inside of your left hand, angle the back foot in at about 45. Float your hands up, fingertips are reaching long for the ceiling, but you're softening the shoulders. Wiggle your front foot forward so that you've got knee over ankle, and try to drop down a little bit through the pelvis. Give me a few deep breaths here, and then think of floating into a warrior two from here. Open up the back foot to 90, pivot slightly through the trunk. Open up your arms into a soft T-frame. Reach long and lengthen through both arms, but keep your gaze steady over your front forefinger. Then reverse the warrior. Drop your back hand to your back leg. Invert the front hand. Give me a soft wrap around and gently peek up to the ceiling. Give me a few deep breaths here. Giving me a slight crescent shape through the back. Then ease your way back into your warrior two frame. Windmill your hands down. Find a plank and use a little vinyasa. Chaturanga brings you down with control. Bend the elbows, come to hovering just off the floor. Drag your weight forward over the wrists, coming into the up dog expression of your choice. Then ease your way into a down dog. Hold the stretch, trying to anchor through the feet. So really try to get a beautiful drop down, stretching into the back chain of your legs. Almost feeding your nose through and thinking of trying to tap your nose to your knees while parking your bum up as high as you can. Think of easing onto the tips of your fingers and creeping or walking your feet forward, coming into a gentle forward fold with your feet stacking underneath your knees. Drop down into the stretch and hold as best you can, whether you're connected to the floor or whether you're connecting to the shin bones or the top of your thighs. Hold your little forward fold, Uttanasana. Check that weight bearing in your feet. Make the crown heavy. Allow the blood to gently pool in your head. From here, you're going to think of coming into a little quad stretch. Think of kneeling down onto the left knee. So take a little step back. Wiggle your front foot forward. Peel your body up. Make sure you've got knee over ankle and just place both palms behind your lead knee and push off that thigh. Look for length. Try to stretch out through. Pretend that somebody's pulling your trunk out from the pelvis. Then see if you can reach your left arm out in front while softly pushing off that right thigh. Take a few deep breaths here. Then maybe drop your left hand to the floor, anchoring underneath your shoulder. You can knife edge the front foot and splay the foot slightly out at 45, so you're almost in a lizard variation. And then reach back with the right hand as if you were trying to tap the wall behind you. Hold that stretch, allowing the lead foot to knife edge and dropping the knee open to the side of the room. If this feels good, Maybe drop a little bit lower and reach opposite hand to foot. You can reach back slightly to enable yourself to connect to that foot. And then once you've got it, bring your weight forward again and find your lizard line again. Holding that stretch, and if binding to the foot is not happening for you today, just stay in position 1 with that leg softly draped on the floor. Your front foot knife edged and reaching your fingertips back as far as you can. Give me a few gentle breaths here. Then bring both hands to the floor. Sweep your leg back, coming into a high kneeling frame. Place both hands in your lower back, either fingertips down or fingertips up, and come into a gentle camel stretch. Thinking of opening up your chest as you float the 2 elbows and the shoulder blades as close together along the midline as you can. Stay or play. Keeping your feet relaxed or tucking the toes under. You're going to reach the right hand for your right heel, and you're going to look over that shoulder towards the back edge of your mat. Either supporting your lower back on the left or floating the left arm up and reaching for the sky. Take a few breaths here, bumping your hips forward over your knees. Then drop both arms long and lengthened at your side. Nod your chin to your chest. And then ease your way from here into 4-point kneeling. You can relax the feet behind you and come into some dynamic cat-cows. Inhaling to prepare as you give me a concave shape through the spine, taking your chin and your bum bones to the ceiling. Exhale to round out, hollowing out your belly. Start playing dynamically between the cow, that little concave back, and the cat, rounding out your back and hollowing out your belly. Find a steady rhythm of your own, trying to keep your tabletop position so the weight is even on the arms and the legs and you're not leaning aggressively forward or backward. Come to stillness in a tabletop line, pushing off the mat and looking for length through the spine. Peel up and take a step forward on the left. Placing your stacked palms behind your knee, pushing off that thigh and pretending there's a little piece of string that's attached to your crown and the crown's being gently pulled up to the ceiling. If this feels good, stay here, pushing off your left hand and just lengthening and reaching through your right hand as if you wanted to tap the wall in front of you. Take a few gentle breaths here. Then drop your right hand to the floor so that it stacks underneath your hip. Splay the front foot out, maybe knife edging the foot, coming into your lizard line, and then reach back with the left hand, peeking over that shoulder as if somebody was standing at the back edge of your mat and you were trying to catch a glance at them. Stay here or think of coming into the bind. Dropping the arm down, maybe reaching back temporarily, so bump your hips back, see if you can bind to that foot and try not to tense that back leg as you reach for the foot. So soften that whole back leg, and then when you're ready, come back into your lizard expression, knife edging the front foot, allowing the knee to softly splay out to the side of the room. Hold your stretch. Take a few deep breaths here. Whether you've managed to bind to the foot or whether you're keeping that leg long and relaxed and just playing with the reach through the arms. Unbind. Place both hands on the mat. Push off the mat. Swing the leg back, finding your high kneeling frame. Come into your little camel line, fingertips up or fingertips down as you softly push the hips forward so that they're stacking over your knees. And remember, the foot line is your choice, either feet relaxed or maybe electing to tuck the toes under. Stay or start dropping your left fingertips. Look over the shoulder, look for your heel, reach for it. Stay here, either supporting your back on the right or floating the right arm up and reaching gently for the sky. Maybe gently peeking up towards the sky. Keep your hips softly bumped forward. Ease your way from here into a high kneeling frame, dropping the arms at your side, nodding your chin to your chest for a second. And then ease your way into 4-point kneeling and begin playing dynamically with your cat-cow. Inhaling to prepare to take the chin and bum bones to the ceiling. Exhale to come through neutral spine and working the shape in the opposite direction. Maybe playing today at a 1 to 1 inhalation to exhalation, or you can play 1 to 2 and hold maybe the cat expression for twice the amount of time. Just see how your body feels. Determine where you need to hold your stretch. Then ease your way into a neutral tabletop line. We're going to change our orientation on the mat, opening up into a wide standing straddle, prasarita. Tuck your toes under. Think of coming into a down dog frame and then walking your hands toward one side, stepping the foot out so that you open up into a wide straddle and you square through the feet. So try not to allow the toes to look to the corner of your mat. Make sure that you square through the feet, either staying here with your hands connected to the mat. And if your hands don't reach the mat and your feet are a bit closer together, maybe use a block or two and just gently lean into the block using it as a prop. If you found that you've easily connected to the mat, maybe invert your hands so that your fingertips are pointing through your legs and see if you can drop down a little bit lower and walk your hands through. Maybe reaching long. If you're nice and low, maybe your forehead is connected to the mat and maybe you can drop down and open up and come into Samakonasana, dropping down onto your shoulders and resting your chest and your chin on the floor. Play with it, see where you want to be. Then gently walk your hands back through and drop down onto your bum so that you're in a wide seated straddle. Allow the right leg to reach long and lengthened and bend the back leg, preferably tucking the heel in as close to your bum as you can. If this feels uncomfortable and your knee's not happy in this position, change the setup and bring the sole of the foot to the inseam of the right leg. So play with it, just see where you want to be. Take a few breaths here and then maybe drop your right elbow down to the inside of the leg and take a soft little opening through the chest, maybe floating your top arm up to the ceiling or coming into a bind around the toe. If you find that you're struggling to connect your elbow to the floor, maybe taking a pillow or a yoga block and putting it on the inside of your knee, maybe reaching for your big toe or just draping your hands softly on the floor, and then try that bind. Peek around your top arm, whether you've managed to bind to the foot or whether you open up into T, and keep gently looking up towards the ceiling. Give yourself a good couple of breaths here. Keep your breathing long, soft, and relaxed. Then gently unbind. Keep your right leg long and lengthened and swing the back leg over so that you're stepping over the outside of your knee, coming into a modified seated spinal twist. Make sure both bum bones are connected to the mat and just hug opposite hand to thigh. Maybe holding on to that bum and hugging it in. And just use the other fingertips. Place them on the mat softly behind you to prop your frame up nice and tall. Keep the foot at the extended leg nice and active. Take a few gentle breaths here. Looking over that back shoulder. Give me at least 5 more breaths here, and then you'll think of trying to find your way into a butterfly line from here. When you're ready, think of bending the knees, connecting the soles of the feet together. Place the fingertips on the mat and just slide your bum or your perineum closer towards the heels of your feet. Just find a soft butterfly line, maybe pushing off your hands, maybe floating the two shoulder blades together, allowing the knees to become heavy to the floor. Take a few deep breaths here. Baddha Konasana, butterfly. Then keeping your hands on the floor, you're going to think of trying to bring yourself into a deep squat line from here. So stepping the feet out, and you can take your squat line as wide or as narrow as you need to. Maybe bringing your hands to prayer in front of your heart, using your elbow points to gently pry the knees further apart and just hold a little drop down. Try to make your bum bones nice and heavy to the mat and take a few deep breaths here. Try to get a sense of length through the spine. From here, you're going to come back into that wide standing straddle. Drop your fingertips to the mat and start heel toeing the feet out. Finding your wide stance, take the legs as wide as you can. Dropping your fingertips to the mat if you can. If this feels good, invert your hands. And maybe begin that gentle walk through, maybe starting to slide the legs further apart as you come through. Drop down as low as you can, walking the hands all the way through, maybe coming into Samakonasana and dropping the weight down onto your shoulders. Hold for a few breaths. If you had to walk through, just slide the hands back through and then drop the weight down on your bum and find your way into a wide seated straddle. Pause here, make sure the weight is equal on both of your bum bones, and when you're ready, set up your modified gait line. Bending the right leg this time, tucking the heel in as close towards the bum as you can. Make sure that you haven't peeled the one bum bone off the mat, so both bum bones are firmly connected to the mat. Then think of softening your left elbow, using block or no block. Drop down onto the left forearm, and softly open and rotate through the right. Maybe just holding a soft half a T, or maybe bringing that arm all the way over and binding to the outside of your pinky toe. And if you can give me a big toe lock with the bottom arm as you find the bind that works for you. Hold here for a few breaths, maybe closing the eyes, taking your focus in, breathing as deeply as you can into the right side of your rib cage. Then peel back up. Take the back leg, swing it over your front leg, twisting towards that top leg. Give me a modified half Lord of the Fishes, hugging that whole thigh in towards your chest while using the fingertips of the other arm to prop your frame up nice and tall. Sit up as tall as you can. Make sure that both of your bum bones are connected to the mat and that you haven't peeled the bum cheek of the bent leg off the mat. Take a few deep breaths here. And then when you're ready, find your way into butterfly, floating the soles of your feet together, using your fingertips on the mat behind you to wiggle your perineum closer towards the heels of your feet. Just pause here, pushing off your spider fingertips, looking for that length in the spine. Make your knees nice and heavy to the mat, but don't force it. For most of us, we're pretty tight through the hips, so those knees won't be touching the mat. But if you are blessed and your knees naturally drop to the floor, enjoy. Ease your way from here into your squat line, pushing off your fingertips, finding your squat line, using your elbow points to gently prise those knees open. Look for a sense of length through the spine. Push actively through both palms. Take a few deep breaths here. And then from here, we're going to change our orientation on the mat and we're going to find our way into a supine position. You can either use a rolling action to come onto the back, or you can just ease your way gently down into a supine position. If you'd like to play with rolling like a ball, maybe place the hands on the mat behind you. Just pivot slightly, tuck into a little ball, and then start rolling gently up and down. Maybe giving me 5 little rocking or rolling motions before you end on the back, hugging the right knee in towards your chest, while bending the left leg and allowing the sole of the foot to connect to the mat. Maybe just hugging up, scooping to peel up off the shoulders, reconnecting your shoulders to the mat, then using your middle index finger and thumb, find a big toe lock on the right, or feed a strap or a hand towel around your foot to help you establish that connection. Find Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana A. You can maybe just T-shape your left hand. Just pause here, trying to tug your toes towards your nose while extending through the heel as if you were trying to tap the heel to the ceiling. If this feels good, try extending your supported leg. Take a big breath in and open up your leg as far as you can to the right. While you look to the left, try to keep yourself anchored on the left side of the body. So the left shoulder and the left bum stay connected to the mat. Take a few deep breaths here. Find your way back to the A-line. And maybe wrap your hands around the back of the thighs. You scoop to peel up and almost try to hug the whole top of your thigh towards your nose. Then drop into a long line, extending the arms overhead, stretching through both sets of toes and both sets of fingertips, maybe wiggling side to side, almost trying to come out through your hips. And then relax the whole body into the mat. Bend both knees, connect the soles of the feet to the mat. Start hugging the left knee in towards your chest. Maybe scooping to peel up off the shoulders as if you wanted to bob your knee towards your nose. Then as you reconnect your head and your shoulders to the mat, find your big toe lock or your foot or strap hold around the left foot and begin T-shaping your right arm. Take a few breaths here, just tug your left toes towards your nose while taking the left heel to the ceiling. Really try to open up the back chain of that left leg. And when you're ready, think about maybe extending your supported leg and bracing actively into that whole sole. Take a few deep breaths here, trying to really stretch the back chain of that left leg. When you're ready, you can open up into the beeline stretch, dropping your foot to the left while you look to the right and focus on keeping your whole body anchored to the mat on the right side. Take a few deep breaths here. Bring yourself gently back to the A-line stretch when you're ready. Stay here or maybe scoop to peel up off the shoulders, trying to bind around the leg and think of just floating your nose closer to the lead thigh. Come into a little supine stretch from here, extending through the toes, extending through the fingertips. And if that feels good, think of that little interlace that we played with right at the beginning of the class. Interlace your hands, invert, push into the heels of your hands and the heels of your feet simultaneously and just take a delicious stretch here. Maybe wiggling through the hips. And then soften through the whole body, uninterlace the hands and slide your way into Shavasana with the arms soft and relaxed at your side, palms looking up. And start to soften the whole body as if you were melting it into the mat. Think of reaching through both big toes and stretching from your hip bones to your toes. And then softening the whole lower half of your body from the hips to the toes. Everything's soft and relaxed. Then reach through your fingertips and stretch the top portion of your body from the hips up, through the crown, through the fingertips. Then softly drape everything down so that you're soft from the waist up to the crown, from the waist to your fingertips. Just take a couple of long, deep inhalations and exhalations here. With every exhale, just soften, relax, release. Visualize yourself melting into the mat with each exhalation. Stay here for as long as you need to. And when you are ready to end off your practice for today, just bring your hands gently to prayer, maybe tapping your thumb tips to your nose or your lips, and ending on the words, Namaste. Stay here for as long as you need to. When you're ready to come out, maybe bend your knees, connect the soles of your feet, roll gently to one side, pausing here for a breath or two. Just allow your blood pressure a chance to stabilize before gently pushing up. Make sure you bring your head up last. Just allow that blood pressure a chance to stabilize. Thank you so much for coming out and playing with me today. I do hope that you enjoyed today's class. Give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Remember to shoot me your comments and to always make sure your notifications are on. Have an amazing weekend. I shall see you all for playtime on the mat on Monday. Till then, keep it light.